Hello, we are the Salon Sleuths. My name is Melissa,
And my name is Leslie.
and we are two women from the Pacific Northwest. We are both curious about paranormals, spirit guides, ghosts, past lives.
We are suspicious about true crime, disappearances, and strange phenomenons. We are open to learning about the supernatural and all things we don't understand.
Together, we're opinionated with a splash of smartass. Join us to learn. And stay curious, stay suspicious, and stay open.
Follow Salon Sleuths on all major podcast platforms.
Hello, Salon Sleuth fans. And Leslie, how are you today? It's Friday!
I'm doing good.
Are you?
Yes. I have some funny
Oh,
things I should share with you.
Really? Tell
Yeah,
me.
just because I'm dumb. I'm stupid sometimes. A lot of times,
Me
actually.
too. Me too.
So yesterday, I went on the dragon boats again.
Oh, good for you.
It's super out of my comfort zone. It's out of my 4 mile bubble.
Okay.
And it's like with people I don't know. There's a few people I knew from high school, but they were like 30 years ago.
Okay, wait, we need to take a
Okay.
time out on 4 mile bubble. We have a 4 mile bubble.
I usually don't go anywhere outside my 4 miles from my house.
That's not true. Because you always are like,
Okay,
put
like on the
kids in
river.
car
I'm with
and-
my family. Yeah,
Okay.
but I really just stick around this area. I don't like the same
Unless you're
restaurants. I never go to new places.
okay.
I'm one of those people that they warn you to not have like your schedule, because if someone's like watching, I'm pretty predictable. So I
Okay.
really just
All
don't
right.
do much. So this is a big deal for me to like get out
Okay.
and go downtown Portland,
Right.
and at night where it's dark with people I don't know, except people that are still strangers, even though I knew them at one time.
Okay, so did you know that you were doing this with people that you went to high school with, or
Well, I
was
did
this a
because we had
coincidence?
Eric, the coach, who was on the Alyssa McCran.
Yes.
He's the coach of that. So he's the same coach from when she went missing 6 years ago.
Right.
He's the same coach who was currently. And then he had mentioned, I think in order to get me down there to maybe try out the team, he mentioned these other girls that we went to high school with.
Okay.
Therefore, I wouldn't be as scared or
Okay.
nervous or whatever. So,
Okay.
so I went down yesterday. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to be shy. I'm just going to talk to people, right? And I walk up to this girl and I was like, oh, hey, nice to see you again. And she's like, her and her girlfriend like kind of looked at each other like, okay, that's weird. And so we're just like talking, and I don't even know what we're talking about. And then somehow the subject of dogs come up, and I was like, oh my gosh, she was like saying that they do agility classes with their dog. And then I was told mine, you don't want to do it under a year. Their bones and stuff aren't ready or whatever. So
Okay.
I was like, oh, I'm totally interested, because every time I call a place, either the phone number is disconnected or they're no longer at this time because of COVID. They're not doing classes, and it's just really hard. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'll totally send you my information. And I said, well, it's on that sign up sheet from when and she's like, oh, I'll look on that. And then we were kind of going back and forth because we were both kind of confused. And then
Yeah.
so she just got my number and then texted me, and then I later texted her back.
Okay.
But so we're just like talking about the dogs and her dogs, and she's got these little tiny dogs, and they do these. She was showing me videos of the agility stuff that they do, and I was like, oh my god, this looks perfect. And then how did it come up? Something about, she goes, so maybe tomorrow at practice. And I was like, that's practice tomorrow? And she's like, yeah. And I was like,
You're in the wrong group, aren't you?
I said, what team are you on? And she's like, oh, I'm like, oh crap. And I look over and my team's already warming up. I'm like, oh my God. So no wonder she looked at me weird when I was like, oh, hi, nice to see you again. Okay, we're all wearing masks, and it's no big deal to me, but like a lot of them have girlfriends and with masks, and they have like short colored hair. Like it was the same color as the girl that I had talked for the date
Gotcha.
for the week or 2 weeks before. And so I was just like, oh shoot, I'm in the wrong class. So that night when I was leaving, I was like, hey, that was really funny. Thank you for being so kind about it. Like, I look forward to like maybe meeting up and teaching the dog stuff. Like, so I was just like, of course I would do that, because that's something
Yes.
I'm stupid
Oh
I
my
do.
gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah. Well, and
Was
then
your
I
team Was your team like, yeah, we wondered why you were over there?
No, they didn't say anything. I went over there and I was like, apparently I was with the wrong team. I'm like, but I think they kind of know that I'm already dingy anyway. So it was just kind of funny.
Well,
but
did they know you were coming for sure too? Like I could imagine.
Yeah, they didn't question like where I was.
Okay.
They were still warming up that we hadn't placed ours where we were going to be in the boat yet. And
okay.
And I think because I had done it already, like I feel like this practice was a lot better. Like I wasn't splashing as much as I would the week before. But this is another really cool thing that happened when we were getting out of the boat. All these people are coming onto the dock, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And they were basically, I don't know if you wouldn't call it celebrating, but they were honoring, or I don't even know if that's the right word, but for the missing Indigenous people.
Oh,
they lit up one of the bridges orange, and then they all came down and they were like beating their drums, and they were like, it was like a chant kind of that they were doing. And so when we had to wait for them to come down, and then we went up, and then I went around to the little viewing area and took some video of what they were doing. So it was kind of cool. And they had like moments of silence and stuff for the people that are missing, because they don't get the publicity that, you know, Gabby Petito or other women, white people, or, you know, so I thought that was I was like, of all nights are going to do this. I was really excited actually. And so I hung out a little bit longer, which then made it darker. And that's the only part I really don't like, is walking to the car, because, you know, it's right there on the waterfront.
Right.
And I can't park close. So I'm like, I'm walking. I mean, there was nothing there, but it just makes me, because it's out of my comfort zone for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and because I hung out, there weren't other people to walk back with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was like my comfort zone. That's what I did yesterday.
Oh my gosh. Well, I am proud of you. Was that your only funny thing that you did, that you were saying, I have some funny things that I did?
Yeah. So that was my embarrassing, like, oh my God. But then I'm not really surprised, because I do that kind of stupid stuff all the time. The other cool thing that I did yesterday is I started an online class at PCC for American Sign Language.
Oh, good for
and
you.
It's a Zoom class, and my instructor, like the teacher, he's really, really funny. Like, no one talks. Everyone's audio's off, so there's no. And the only thing I wish, though, I think he might be deaf, but you know, like the video, it makes whoever's talking big.
Yes.
Because everybody's audio is off. Like,
you can
he's
change
just as small
that
as everybody else. Well, I kept going back through, but it only.
You have to go to view, and then you do speaker. So you can have.
Okay, but I did, but everybody's audio's off, and he doesn't like, he's not talking everything. So it's almost like he needs to have a radio or something on.
Oh, gotcha.
So it makes his video big.
Stay up.
Yeah. So I'm going to have to, because when I went to that, somebody must have made a noise at one point and then turned off their speakers or whatever, because hers was popped up, but she wasn't. She was just one of the students. So I may make that suggestion to him, because that was the only thing. And he likes to share his screen, but when he's only this big, and he's trying to like talk, and I'm like, so it's funny because he can tell like the looks on their face, like, what the hell is he talking about? This is like 101 second class, and we're like, what the hell is he talking about? But then it's just miming, really, because then he's like telling a story, and it's really funny the way he does it. Is like, because he'll call like someone's name, and then he's like,
wait, so he actually like signs at the name, and you have to figure it out?
So he did someone's name, and apparently none of us knew it, because he typed in the chat, like, so I just called someone's name, they didn't recognize it. Like, so this week we're really supposed to be working on our finger spelling, which I'm terrible at.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's really fast. So it's kind of like when you're learning like Spanish, and then you go to somebody who's Spanish speaking, they talk so fast.
So I have a deaf couple client, and they just taught me one, and now I can't even remember it. I want to say it was like this, and now I'm like, what the hell was it? I look like I'm flipping somebody off, don't I? Yeah. What did it mean? I think it was this.
What does it mean?
This. It's a good question. I forget. Crazy, I think. Or not crazy. Crazy's this. Oh gosh, something like that though. It was oh boy,
that's really funny.
Yeah, I gotta take a pass on that.
So do you just write with them?
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
he has hearing aids, so he can hear a little bit. He lost his hearing through polio. And so he had been hearing and then lost his hearing and just has really limited hearing. So he kind of hears for the two of them. Then she was born without hearing completely. So she doesn't hear anything. So she signs completely. So she reads my lips.
Yeah.
And he reads my lips and hears what I'm saying a little bit, but I have to talk really slowly and deliberately and with a lot of pronunciation. And then he helps a little bit, but then I write to what she doesn't get. And sometimes, I use slang words or try to be funny, and they don't know that. Yeah. So I have to, sometimes I teach them and then they teach me, and it's kind of fun. But I also didn't know about sign language, that they make words up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So it's slang. So the American sign
not
language,
words, but they make signs up to go to words.
Well, it's just like our slang. Or they may give you their own name. So you would never make up your own name, but they could give you a name in their culture. Yes. So you learn American Sign Language, which is like learning English. And then different regions have different slang. So what the West Coast and what the East Coast say two different things. So if you go there, deaf people may not know that slang.
Oh, okay. Well, so the funny thing is that so we have a contractor. I've done many projects for them, and we have this contractor that they really love, and he's just a nice man. And so he was late one day. I think he forgot. I can't remember the specifics, but we started calling him Tom.
Yeah.
Because he was late. So it was Tom, you know. And so that's kind of funny. I didn't know that.
That's really funny.
Starbucks just came up with their name. They bought me the cup. It's something like this, or no, it's something like this or something.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
And like where you sign is like here. And then also when you're finger spelling, like with your reading, you don't actually read every single letter, right? But in sign language, so some letters are tall and some are short. So you can get the gist of the word without seeing every individual letter.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So they do that. And like another thing is when you're somewhere and you see a deaf couple and they're talking, it's rude to watch because you're eavesdropping on their conversation. So we might just watch because we're like in awe of like, oh my God, that's so cool. Yeah. Where they're like they're watching, like they're listening in on what we're saying.
Well, also, I mean, they don't want it to be a spectacle.
Right.
The one thing that I have learned through, I mean, I've known them now maybe 15 years. It seems like forever, but is what we take for granted about cues, hearing cues that we have. I didn't really understand what I don't want to say frightening, but what a scary world they live in because they can't have those hearing cues. So
he just said that to us in class.
Oh, did he?
Like you don't startle somebody by like tapping on the shoulder. Like you might, where they feel the vibration.
Yes.
And you would always like come in front of them and then tap them on the shoulder instead of doing it behind them. I think after a while though, you might get a little used to some of that. But then
they always leave their blinds down, like even in the backyard, because they're not going to know without seeing someone if someone is peering in. They're not going to hear a knock on the window or like, oh, did somebody just walk on my deck? Like we can hear all those things.
Yeah.
So they have a lot more reserve. Also, it's really
I would have
difficult.
Motion lights throughout my house though.
They do have some of that. They do have some of that. And but also like just dealing with the public. I when I first started working with them, I brought in 2 contractors for them to meet. And prior to both of those guys coming in, I said, look, you need to speak slowly. You need to be patient. A conversation that you and I have in an hour is going to take 2 hours at least with them. Just because we have to communicate a little bit better. And you have to talk slowly. You have to pronunciate clearly, and you have to be looking at them, right? You can't turn away and look. I got to tell you, it's shocking to me how many people still didn't do that.
Yeah.
And we have found
or they talk louder or they do
weird
things.
Yeah. Yeah, or they just mumble and they turn away and they blah, 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 blah. And you're like,
Or you don't
they
realize
can
how
hear.
much you actually do that until you're with
Yeah,
people like that. Yeah.
yeah.
It's so cool. I just thought it would be a really fun thing to learn. I was like, what, you
Good for
never know when you
you.
might use it, but, just add that to my other
I
things that
don't
I'm
know
trying to
how you
learn.
have time to do all that.
Well, it's only like an hour. It's like almost 4 hours a week. It's 2 days a week. No big deal
Well, yeah, but then you have
so
to
far.
study,
I know.
right?
Well, we
Yeah.
don't have homework yet, but
Okay.
because we don't have our books. So anyway,
Is it like an optional class? Or are you actually going to get a grade for it?
I do get a grade. it's credit, so I can get
Oh,
a
okay.
credit thing. Well, and I thought, well, I mean, not that I'm going to, but like there's a whole series if you want to become an interpreter.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, well, I don't know. I think I would like to get like fluent in it. For what reason? I don't know. I said I can't hear in one ear. Maybe it will serve me something later.
Yeah.
Although I will only know it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
because if
Yeah.
I'm the one hard hearing, but whatever. Like, I just thought it would be a cool thing to learn. I don't know.
Well, I really wanted my son, who's dyslexic, who needed foreign language, to be able to do that. But the PCC had it. The school didn't have it, which I kind of think is
Our
a
school
little
just
bit.
added it this year.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a small bone
And
to
the
pick.
thing is, though, and this is how you could have gotten around that,
Yeah.
is so like Tristan, he's very much a visual audio,
Yeah.
although that doesn't matter for this, but for him,
Visual
like I think
learning.
Spanish visual, like it would be
And-
way too hard. So they agreed that sign language would be good for him, which then the school paid for the online class.
Well, no, but that was what I was going to say is the
Yeah.
only online classes were in the time periods that wouldn't work for him because he was playing soccer after school. And then I think there was a morning class, but his advanced math classes were at that time. And so it like just didn't fit into his
Yeah.
schedule, which, I feel like in the future, I would like to see all schools add sign language because I think we have a lot more kids with learning differences. And it's not to
Yeah.
say they're dyslexic or whatever. It's just they learn differently. They don't learn through audio. They
Right.
learn through more visual. I'm a visual learner too.
Right.
And, using our hands kinetically and everything, mobility wise, there's a lot of kids that are really, really good at that. So I just feel like that is a diversity that we could add to
Mhm.
schools, but that's a whole nother tangent that we could get
Yeah.
off on. So
I think that's what Lucy
Yeah.
wants to go. She'll do her 2 years in
good.
sign language when she gets there next year.
Oh, good for her.
Ah.
Well, I just have for you. I know you're going to give us a ghost story today, but and I did look up some ghost stories, and I got to tell you, I have trouble with ghost stories, so I'm just going to put it out there.
Like you have
I'm
trouble because you don't
suspicious.
like them? They're like, because you're.
I'm just suspicious. Unless I was there and experienced it, I have a hard time getting freaked out by these stories because I go, I didn't. I don't know. It's like face value.
Same with me. They don't really scare me at all. They just seem like, I don't know. Even when I
Yeah.
see videos, I'm like, unless I'm there, either that or I'm like so I'm not impressed sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
and then I question like, well, did they pull it with a string or, like I just question
Right.
everything
Right.
unless I'm actually there. So, but I thought the story that I will tell you after yours is,
Okay.
I just heard it last week from my client and I just thought it was really sweet and sad and all at the same time, but it just happened. So,
Okay, good.
and, yeah.
Well, I was just going to update you on Gabby Petito. I know that
Yes.
you and I have been following this, and last week we've had such a whirlwind, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on her because we are going to cover other cases, but I just feel like so much continues to happen. Not as much as last week, but I did kind of want to update you in case you aren't following it or our listeners aren't following it. But so here's the thing. It turns out that most likely Brian has been missing. We do not have confirmation of this, but it seems that Brian's probably been missing since he went on a camping trip after he got home to Florida with his parents. The three of them went.
Long before they knew she was missing.
Yes. And I'm going to give you a whole timeline of dates,
Yes.
but that
Okay.
we have learned, we have heard now several 911 calls were made to the laundry home actually before we realized Gabby was missing.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Yeah. So people are
Okay.
questioning, like, what were those calls about? What were the 911 calls? What did they say? The FBI yesterday went back to the laundry home and searched again. We're not exactly sure what they're searching for. And then there's new body cam footage from the Utah pullover traffic stop that the other gentleman was having a conversation with her, where she actually does reveal that he did slap her, he did squeeze her face, but she had slapped him first. So again, a little bit more has come out that maybe Utah didn't really handle this maybe the best way, and that maybe there wasn't good communication between the police officers. I still don't know why the woman wasn't sort of taking over, talking to Gabby and having a little bit better conversation with her. Because I know there was a woman there, because we see her in the final video. I don't know what she was doing the rest of the call, if she showed up late and just didn't kind of interact.
I think she did mention to her that this is a toxic relationship and that she should maybe like.
Yeah. But we haven't seen her body cam video. Yeah. So, it's one of those things where I feel like, I spoke and said, I thought the Utah police did a really good job, and now we're seeing.
I think the guy that we saw, I think he did, but I don't know if there was audio that was missing from if he interacted with the other police officers. Because from his view, from what we saw, I think he did a great job. Not knowing that the 911 call and what he had said earlier.
And I think this points out that we don't always have all the information. There's information
and that sucks.
That we
if that's true.
Yeah.
They like it. It's kind of like when the wrong kid gets the timeout.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He got to go in a hotel. He got to take a shower for free because the police paid for it. I mean, I just think that's sad. But anyway, I will be quiet now. You talk.
Okay. Well, no, you're fine. And I think that also, since we met last, he has a warrant out for his arrest. And yes, we did talk about it, but you are correct. It was a debit card that he withdrew or made purchases of about $1,000. And so that just takes me back to my original thing, which pisses me off, because there was a credit card or some way to get money. He could have paid for a stupid room. I don't know. I'm losing respect more and more, if I hadn't already lost all respect for this family and for him. And I'm going to go through the timeline, now. But I want to say, at the end of the day, these parents need to be arrested, and either that will shake him loose or he's not around.
Right.
I think these parents need to be held accountable for their actions.
And honestly, I don't think he's at that campground. Like, why would they drop him off at these islands?
No, I don't.
I think he was, and they went there twice, right? Like, but let me just say, this was Labor Day weekend. They had these reservations way in advance. This wasn't just like,
no, it wasn't Labor Day weekend. That was the 6th.
They went earlier.
Oh yeah, the 6th and the 8th. You're right, because Labor Day was late this week, right? You're right. It was the 6th.
So they had made those reservations long in advance. So it wasn't like they were just trying to get away as soon as they got home. They had already planned this. Like,
did you also know they only stayed one night? They had a reservation for 2 nights, but they only stayed one night.
Yeah, because they had used the other night to get them as far as they could away.
Well, could be. So do you want me to go through like the timeline?
What about the burner phone? Like,
yes,
there's a burner phone.
There's a burner
and then
phone.
They say, oh no, he left it here. Guess what? They probably have another one. Like,
exactly.
That was your burner phone that he left to call you.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So he still has his burner phone.
Yep.
The problem is he won't be able to call that number because they have the phone. But if he calls their home phone, they're going to be able to track it.
Yes. So here, I'm not going to go through the earlier dates. I'm just going to go straight to, they went camping on the 6th. They had reservations from the 6th to the 8th, but they left on the 7th. September 10th, police were called twice to the house. On September 11th, police go to the laundry home on request of the Petito family. And on September 14th, police were called to the laundry home as well. And the Petitos also sent out the letter to the family of the Laundries. And the 16th, they were, I'm sorry, I messed that up. The 14th, police were called to the laundry home. We don't exactly know why. On the 16th, the Petito families publicly put out a letter asking for help from the laundries. And then the 17th, they asked police to come to their home, and they said that they haven't seen Bryant since the 14th. And the 14th was when they had made that other call. So there were a lot of calls made, and I don't even think he was home on the 14th, quite frankly.
No, he's been gone since the 7th. They dropped him off. Like, yeah. And he's not in those islands like Dog the Bounty Hunter who finds a monster drink. That is not anything he would drink. But I do have to say, I just found out that she worked at Taco Bell. Did she work at Taco Bell, or did she work at a coffee shop?
Oh, I didn't hear she worked at Taco Bell.
Well, I heard...
Are you talking about Gabby?
Yeah, I heard that she worked at Taco Bell, and I was like, that kind of goes against their healthy eating and all of that.
Yeah.
But then I also heard she had a coffee shop, so I don't know which one she... But when I heard I was like, I kind of liked her even more if she worked at Taco Bell, but because it made her more normal. Yeah, I don't know. And that just means like she was a really hard worker. Like, yeah, that is not an easy job. And even if it was a coffee shop, that's not easy. I mean, no. I just like her more and more, and I hate him more and more. And, and the poor guy that keeps getting asked if he had to travel, and everyone's thinking it's him. But he went to another state, and he said nobody really bothered him.
Oh, good.
Like on the flight and stuff. He said he got looks, but
I was going to say, so that was the other part of the information that has come out, is that Dog the Bounty Hunter's on the case.
Yes. Oh my God.
And that's from TMZ. And I'm like, oh my God, this is too funny. And I did hear about the monster drink, but that he does have a burner phone, or did have a burner phone, could have several burner phones.
I think he's got a burner phone. I think the phone that they found were the parents, because that's how they were going to communicate. I think they still probably have his phone number.
So my question is, do you think he was trying to do murder-suicide?
Well, everything I thought from the very beginning was wrong. So the thought I would have is, I think I really just hope it was like a crime of passion. Like he just got upset and he just took it too far, and somehow like she died. She fell and hit her head. I hope he didn't like shoot her. Like, I have no idea. I couldn't imagine it was planned.
Right.
Because I don't know. I think he freaked out. He came home. The parents were wondering where Gabby was. They went on this camping trip to get him out of there. Like, and he didn't come home. Like, he didn't go hiking in that park. I think they just gave him a head start.
I agree.
And he's long gone out of that area. Although I was thinking about that because everywhere else is going to be cold. We're going into winter. So to be down there makes more sense because it's warm. But then I don't know, like he wouldn't be in the area, would he? Well,
and also we haven't heard anything about a passport or, flights. I mean, I'm sure they're looking into...
But Melissa, he would have left. Like, I guess they can look up if somebody has traveled, right?
Right.
With their passport.
Correct.
But this was before they even knew there was an issue.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
So that's why I was like, he's probably down in Mexico. If they dropped him down in those islands or whatever, like he's probably more of in the Gulf of Mexico. He's down in Belize. He's somewhere else, like where it's warmer and out of the country. I don't know if he was fluent in Spanish. Like, I have no idea. Like,
so do you think arresting the parents will bring him out of hiding?
I think it's worth a shot. They need to be arrested. They've been like sketchy from the very beginning. Yes. I think, maybe they haven't, then maybe they haven't actually done anything wrong other than, if what they're saying is true, they haven't done anything wrong. But what everybody
aiding and abetting, and they've been lying that he was there at least for 2 days.
But what if what they're saying is actually true? They didn't do any of that, then no. But then, I don't know. I think the best way to do is just hold them somehow and just see if something happens. But you know what? He's probably not listening to the internet. He's probably totally off the grid, because if something pings, like he's probably not even going to know that they're arrested.
I think he's following the case. I think he's absolutely following the case if he's alive.
Well,
I just don't think he has the balls to kill himself. And maybe this is just my personal skepticism in my own, brain and history, that a lot of abusers don't even have the balls to kill themselves. They just want to abuse other people. They don't have actually the balls to do it to themselves.
If his parents really thought that that's what he was doing, they would be looking for him.
I agree. I agree. And, I think all along, that's been the part that you and I have clued into. Wait, if Brian Laundrie left her, like, we never thought she was alive because he would have been looking for her. He would have said, oh my God, I left her here. No one's heard from her. Are you kidding me? We got in a fight. I left, blah, blah. Like, it never has made sense. And the fact that they're not even worried that he's been gone doesn't make sense, because as a parent, you would be initially worried that he was going to hurt himself because he hurt her. Like, I feel like they are so guilty of aiding and abetting and conspiracy or something that they should be arrested. And let's just see if we can ferret him out. I don't know.
It's sad.
It is sad. Terrible. It is. Boy, I got you riled up today. You rarely get riled up.
Dang. Seriously.
Okay, well, tell me your ghost story.
Did I tell you the story already?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm going to take her name out of it anyway. Okay. I have a really good friend. She's a client of mine, and she is originally from Mexico. So it was last month, her whole family went to Mexico. The 6 of them went for the whole entire month. And right before they were leaving, her older brother gets COVID. He's only 47. He gets COVID. And so they're like, well, they weren't sure. He had a sore throat, but he was still working. And I believe what he does for a living is he like mixes different feed for different animals. And then he takes them to people, and then they can feed their animals. They're like chickens or their pigs or whatever. So, and he wasn't feeling well. And then he still had the sore throat and he felt like fluish. And she's like, just go in. And I forget what word she uses, but it's like COVID, but like someone who speaks Spanish saying COVID, like Cova or something. She calls it something else. I thought it was really funny. So she's like, just go get a test. Well, he came back positive. And so kind of everybody was like staying away from him. But he was still working and making the feed or whatever. So she comes home, and I pick up the family, all of them at like 2 a.m. on a Wednesday, and I had to be at work at 7 or whatever.
Did he go to Mexico too?
So no, he lives in Mexico.
Okay.
So they, just my friend and her family, the 6 of them went. He lives in Mexico and helps with her parents.
Okay.
And I believe her mom, when she was born, probably born in the house, and doesn't necessarily have an official birth certificate. So she won't ever be able to get a passport and actually they'd be able to come here and visit. So they always have to go there.
Okay.
And she's getting older, so she's been going more often. So I picked him up on a Wednesday. By Sunday, my client was back in Mexico because her brother he's going downhill. They were monitoring his
Wait, you picked her up when?
On Wednesday.
Oh my gosh.
I picked the whole family up on Wednesday.
Back. Oh, wow.
And then luckily we have a 15-passenger van, because picking up 6 people and all their luggage.
Yeah.
I needed a 15-passenger van just to get them to and from the airport. Yeah. So I pick her up. She's back in Mexico on Sunday. Her brother is like, they're like, you need to come. He's not doing well. So,
oh my gosh.
From where they live in this really rural town where it's concrete floors. There's no rugs. Like, you sweep everything out. And if you go to the hospital, they basically want cash. So they wanted $20,000 to see him. But when they found out, I think I couldn't, if he was already on the IV or the intubating, I wasn't sure, but they said, because he's already in that, we need another 50. So they wanted like $70,000. And they're like, well, that's not going to happen. He's like, I'm not going to have my family go into debt. So I'm going to go back home. So they go back home. And luckily one of the family is a nurse. And so she was able to come and she did the IV for them, because it's easier to get that kind of stuff there.
Right.
So she was doing his IV. They're in like full hazmat suits, checking in on him. And my friend was saying that he says to her, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, talk to the doctor and help me. Like, and she's like, no, God. This is a conversation you need to have with God. Yes. Like, you need to tell God your plan. I'm not going to do that. So then she steps outside to go talk to somebody. And this, her brother's wife and child were in the room. And he hadn't been out of bed for days. He's super weak. He stands up and he's like getting his but getting ready to go. And he's like, come on, we got to go. And
to go where?
And they're like, well, that's what they're saying.
Okay.
And he's like, the angels are here. We need to go with them. And they're like, no, honey, you need to get back in bed. You're really weak. If you fall, we might not be able to help you, because he's a big guy. Like, just get back in bed. He gets back in bed after because he was really like, we have to go. They're here. He gets back in bed, closes his eyes, and he passed away. So like he thought physically you have to go with them. Like, no, you just need to go with them. And he passed away. So I look up as I'm doing her nails, right? I look up and she's just like, and I'm like, but doesn't that make you feel better knowing that angels were there to take him through? Yeah. And I mean, doesn't that make you feel better knowing that?
Well, yes, but
that somebody was there.
Sad.
She goes, I just miss him so much. And she's like totally crying, and it was so sad. Oh. But I thought that was such a cool story, like for her to hear that, like the angels were there. Like,
yeah.
You don't hear, I mean, I hear like stories. I remember my friend when her mom was passing away. I'm not sure what kind of cancer. I just know it was in her back and like her liver and everything. But she would take naps and wake up and be like, am I still here?
Oh gosh.
Am I still here? Like, I'm like, could you imagine the panic of every time you take a nap? Like, am I still in this world? Like,
oh my gosh.
This is terrible. I was like, that just freaks me out. But yeah.
Well, when my dad was dying, not the day that he died, but prior to this, he had taken some CBD oil because he had cancer really bad and it was terminal, and we knew this was the end. And so he had tried to take some to relieve himself. But he didn't end up taking it any more than that because he started seeing his aunts and uncles around him. And I don't think that was a
CBD.
I know. And it freaked him out. I think the CBD allowed him to see it, but it freaked him out so much that he didn't take it after that. And he did pass away fairly soon after that, but he didn't take any more CBD.
You hear that all the time where the families are coming.
Yeah. I shouldn't say it was just CBD. I think it was CBD and THC, but
yeah, I was going to say
it was
too much.
It was not
probably
just
CBD. Want to relax him.
But... Exactly. Yeah. It was a combo, thing to make him feel better. And all he saw was his dead relative. So
yeah, I think I told you when my nephew was passing, he's like, why is it so foggy in here? And my sister was like, because they were like on the top floor at the Dornbeckers, and she's like, you mean outside? And he's like, no, it's like foggy in here. And she really believes it was like the Holy Spirit like filling the room, like because he coded shortly after that. And but it was like, I thought it was just, it's kind of cool when they acknowledge like something's happening. And that kind of reminds me of like JJ and that the figure that he saw in the corner of the room. He wasn't passing away, but he was super sick. And then afterwards he came out with this like amazing gift, like anyway.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
I do have a weird, terrible story that's recent.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's really morbid and gross, but.
Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah. I'll get prepared here. I do kind of like morbid and gross, I think. I don't know. Let's go.
We'll see if you would want to be neighbors with this guy.
Okay. Ooh.
So
Cassidy
Rainwater. Yeah. It's terrible. So Cassidy Rainwater was a 33-year-old girl. And she was staying with James Davis, and he offered to help her get back onto her feet. She was living in the loft in his cabin in this area called, it was on Moon Valley Road in Missouri.
Okay.
Now, it was really...
Bad things happen in Missouri.
Yeah, apparently. This is bad. So it's near Windyville, Missouri, and it's reported to be a haunted area, and so they call it Spookyville. So it has like this kind of crazy thing.
Okay.
And Cassidy was familiar with this area because her family used to own property like near or on this road. So it was kind of like her stomping ground, and this guy just offered to help her out. Well, then she goes missing, and she was last seen on July 25th, but I believe her family hadn't seen her. This just happened.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Of this year. So her family reported her missing in August, although the last known sighting of her was July 25th.
Okay.
Then the FBI received a tip, and it was an anonymous source, that they have the evidence of a partially clothed woman being held in a cage. Sorry.
Gosh.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Being held in a dark cage on the dark web. So the FBI uses a software that
Oh my
uses
gosh.
pixels and matches skin tones, and then contacted the Dallas County Sheriff on September 16th after they had it was showing that there was a possible match between the missing Cassidy girl.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but the source wanted to stay anonymous, and so they went to the house to question him. And while they were there, he was acting really weird. And some of the officers had gone around the building, around his house, just to kind of look around. And in one of the bathroom window, they see meat hooks.
Ah!
And so, yeah. So they, I believe at that point is when they got a search warrant for this house. Okay. So I think they went in, they saw all this stuff, they left, they came back with a search warrant. And when they did, they kicked in his door and he was eating a sandwich at the table. Well, it was human remains sandwich. Yeah. Yeah. And he allegedly laughed and said, well, I had ribs with the neighbor last week. Yeah. So I don't know if the neighbor knew these were human ribs, but they found that they allegedly found vacuum sealed bags that had details of what was in the packages. And there were also 7 photos of Cassidy in this cage in this man's on his phone.
Oh my gosh.
He allegedly had an accomplice named Timothy Leroy Norton. And he was a truck driver, and he may have transported some of the victims across state lines.
Wait, so there were more victims?
Yes. So it gets kind of interesting because on September 19th, they interviewed Norton, who lives in a truck on the Moon Valley property, and when he's off the road. They were able to find remains, and it didn't say whose remains, in some of the trailer tanks, and partial remains on the property, and they believe to be different sets of different people that have been missing over the decades.
So he was also living on this property, or is this the guy
in
who
his
was
truck when
her?
he wasn't on the road, he was living in his truck on this property.
So the guy who said he was going to help her is not the guy who killed her.
Yeah, he was the one eating the meat sandwich.
Oh,
he was eating a Cassidy sandwich.
So, but was he the truck driver too?
No, that was his friend or whoever was. That was the accomplice.
Wait, so 2 psycho guys.
Yes, 2 psycho guys. So according to Reddit, there were speculations of a connection of a van that was recovered on the property. And there's a picture of it. It's got brush and everything around it. Well, that van may have connections to the 30-year-old mystery of the Springfield 3.
Springfield, Oregon? Or
Springfield? No, it's a different Springfield. Illinois, but haven't you ever heard of the story, the Springfield 3?
It sounds
these 3 women. Familiar. It was a mom and 2 kids, 2 like high schoolers that go missing, and there was like I think the light on the porch was missing, and they're just nowhere to be found, and they've been missing for a really long time, and so they were saying that that van may have connections to that time.
Oh, wow.
Wow. So yeah, let me see. Let me go back here. There was another like online sleuth saying they were considering this to also have connections to, her name was Echo Lloyd. She's a 44-year-old missing mother who went missing on Mother's Day 2020 from Edwards, Missouri, an hour and a half away from the Moon Valley Road. So because it's in the area, they're thinking, oh, maybe she has ties to this. And let's see.
Okay, that house must have a lot of DNA and blood.
Oh, yeah, it's probably really disgusting if you have meat hooks in your bathroom. But here's another sad thing. Tracy's mother, she was reported missing by her boyfriend, Leonard Couch, in 2007. Her remains were found not far from his residence in 2008, but no charges were ever filed because they had nothing to tie him directly to it. But he did die in February 2021.
Oh my gosh. Wait, so Tracy was the girl who was eaten in a sandwich?
So Tracy is Cassidy's mother, who also died probably by murder.
Oh my God.
But years ago, like in 2007. Yes. And so just recently, Cassidy was just looking for a hand up. This guy offered her the loft of his cabin. He didn't mention that she would be hanging
part of a cannibal. He was part of a cannibal society of dark web. Okay, so two things come to mind when you're telling me the story. One is, my husband and I were talking about this last night. How do you get on the dark web? Is it like a separate not .com? It's like something else.
I could ask my cousin. Or my niece. She would totally know.
Like, do I just type in dark web? Like,
do you have to go to a website that takes you to it? Or do you have to
have a special code? I am evil to get on the dark web. Like, what is it?
Well, they always say, like, whatever it is, you don't want to get on it.
I know.
It's really messed up.
I know.
And I feel like the people that are on the dark web are these people that can do tracing. And so, like, as soon as you get on it, there's like a map to your house. Like, they know your IP address. And
or like the FBI. Okay, so that's kind of my deal with QAnon. I'm going down another rabbit hole because I have one more thing
so I was it you? Or I was talking to one of my clients this week about QAnon. I'm like, is it really actually exist? Because were you the one telling me about the pizza place?
Yeah, well, yes. Yeah, we did that.
That was you.
Yeah, the Pizzagate. No, but
No, not Pizzagate. Just last week, my client was saying how I think it was in New York, this family was murdered because they were convinced that the QAnon meet in the basement of this pizza place. And the family, so they were like, the logo, look at the logo, it's the QAnon thing. And they were like, no, it's a piece of pizza. They go in and they killed these people, this family. There's no basement. There's no QAnon there. Like, so, like, do people just believe QAnon actually exists, or does it exist? Like, what is it?
Okay, it does exist, but the thing is that where are they getting this information? So I actually kind of tried to figure that out this week, and I didn't have enough time to clearly figure it out. But they believe Q, as they call him, is a person.
Okay.
But there are some suspicions as to who it is, but nobody knows exactly who it is. But it's all like based in the church, like evangelical church. And it has all these like little tendrils that kind of go out and misinformation, right? But so I was trying to find, like, where do people go to be part of QAnon? Like, is it just the rabbit hole of Facebook where they end up seeing one article and then getting another article? Like, I don't know the answer to that still.
It reminds me of like Heaven's Gate, where they were sent off and it was like they were looking for signs.
Yes.
Like in the garbage.
Yes. And literally, okay,
it's like Fight Club.
I think
Fight
it's
Club
Tucker.
Doesn't exist.
Exactly. There was a guy that used to be on the Daily Show. He's got his own like YouTube channel now. And he does the most hilarious video montages of like him going to Trump rallies or to QAnon rallies. And the latest one was a QAnon one. And it was Save the Children or something like that. And you had the QAnon people and then the actually people that thought they were saving children. And he talks to them. And this one very, very seemingly sane woman who's a teacher saying that she was literally saying this week or last week, you need to look up Pizzagate. It's a real thing. Like, lady, it is not a real thing. This is totally
so that's what's really scary. You have these very intelligent people who fall into this. Like, is it like with COVID, everybody needs to have like a purpose, a drive, and then you fall in the rabbit hole and you start to believe in it?
Yes.
Or does it actually exist, Melissa?
I don't know. Or am I the crazy one? Because this is how I started this journey is someone told me about a post. They screenshotted it for me that said that a ex-Pfizer doctor had said that the vaccine, if you take the vaccine, you only have 2 to 3 years to live. And they gave the specific name, Mark Yeadon or something like that. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to just look this up. This can't be hard to figure out like where this stemmed from. Well, it turns out that Mark Yeadon did work at Pfizer. He's not a doctor. He's a scientist, but that's okay. he did not say those things. It was another man who said those things, but they've sort of conflated the information. This man, this Mark Edon, used to be very pro-vaccine. And then for some reason, he left Pfizer, and all of his colleagues are like, we're not sure. This is not the same Mark that we used to know. Like, something's gone on with him. We kind of can't understand why he's posting these things, but he started posting all these kind of off the wall kind of things and didn't line up with him. So this person that had posted this on Facebook clearly had misinformation from two different people that supposedly said, and then the other thing that was said about the 2 to 3 years was not accurate either. It was taken out of context. It was kind of copy and pasted. And so none of it was really true, but there was truth in it that Mark Edon is a real person. This other person is a real person who said 2 to 3 years, but not about this vaccine, right?
Right. So if you Google it and you hear a bit, then you might take it as truth.
Correct. And you can figure this stuff out. But my question, what I was trying to figure out is, where did this woman get this information and believe it and post it as reality? Did she check it at all? Who gave it to her for her to think, oh, this is true, without checking it, right?
Was she where did she get it too?
She was an anti-vaxxer. She was convinced that if you get the vaccine, you have 2 to 3 years to live. You're going to die.
You can believe in that, but you can't believe in the vaccine?
Well,
yes. I guess you're believing that it will kill you.
So Sanjay Gupta, do you know him? He's a famous scientist, doctor scientist, I should say. Well, he was just on Anderson Cooper, and he was talking to a nurse who has been a nurse for 30 years. She's long life nurse. Can't remember exactly how long, but a long life nurse. She refuses to get a vaccine, and she's going to lose her job, I think today, in New York. And he said, okay, so, what's the reason? Are you anti-vax? And she said, no, I'm not anti-vax. I just am not going to get this one. And he said, okay, well, let's talk about that. What's your thing? What are your concerns? And she said, well, I really have a concern about the clotting that they've seen. And he goes, okay, well, that has happened in one of the several vaccine choices that you can get. And so let's talk about that. And he goes, okay, so, the studies have shown, and the statistics are that you're actually more likely to get clots and die from COVID than you actually are at risk in getting the vaccine. And she goes, oh, well, I kind of didn't know that. And she goes, well, the real thing is I don't want to be told what to do. So that's her reason for not getting the thing. And I'm like, okay, but I understand that. And first of all, you weren't being told when the vaccine first came out, you weren't being told you had to do that. That's been now a year and a half later, or a year later. I don't know. Maybe it hasn't been that long. I guess they started becoming available in January or December. So it's not been this whole time that you had to get a shot, right? So she chose to not get a shot that whole time. If you don't want to be told to do something, there's also a lot of other things that we're told we have to do. For example, you have to get a driver's license to drive.
Yes.
You have to wear a seatbelt. You have to get car insurance, right? You have house insurance. I mean, there's a lot of things we have to do just to be a surviving person. When she got a job, she had to fill out paperwork. Yeah. She had to, give him her driver's license and her social security number to get a job.
Right.
Like, there was a lot of things you had to
fill out an application either to get a mortgage or to rent an apartment.
Yeah, exactly. Being told what you have to do, I don't know. And even probably to go to school, she had to have certain vaccinations to go to school. So she had to do those things. I don't understand that mentality. That doesn't really hold water for me. But to your same point, where are people getting this information that you and I aren't getting? Or are they just taking at face value and then going down a rabbit hole and not checking it? Because I would think you'd want to check it. Like
the whole thing with let's just say the chickenpox vaccine.
Yeah.
Did they have to develop it for 30 years before people believed it that would work?
No.
Or did they just get it once they figured it out.
And
then they didn't
exactly.
question it. Like, I don't remember this being an issue with all of it. But okay, then part of me is like, okay, what if there is a bigger conspiracy? And then what if we've all just drank the juice and all of that? And then I just have to stop thinking that, because I was like, I'm just gonna tell myself I did the best thing that I thought was right for me. But then part of me is like, well, what if? Like,
I agree with you. That's why I was like, well, I kind of want to research this. Like, where is this information coming from? But then you also hear like the doctors, like all of our medical people have to, it's required. All of our teachers have to, all of our senators and governors and a president, they're all vaccinated. So then I'm like, so if that's the case, wouldn't we all be dying together? Well, exactly. And, you know, I don't know about you, but if you're actually watching, what is actually happening is more Republicans in red states are dying than anywhere else. And so
because they don't have the vaccine,
because they're not vaccinated. I even have a very educated friend, graduated from college, or acquaintance, I guess, friend, whatever, on Facebook, who actually posted, after somebody, you know, had posted the statistics for OHSU, which is our local hospital system here, that how many of the people that were hospitalized and in the ICU and on ventilators were vaccinated or not. And basically it's, you know, most of the people, if not all, sometimes it's like one person was vaccinated. And you don't know underlying conditions, but for the most part, they're all people that are unvaccinated. And she said, well, that's interesting because I'm hearing that all the people in the hospital are actually people that have been at least vaccinated once. And so they're in the hospital because of their vaccination. And I'm like, where are you even getting this information? Like,
she's getting it from the QAnon.
That's what I think. Where is it coming from? Leslie, I want to get onto the QAnon. I want to see it with my own eyes. Like, I feel like
go to a meeting.
Yeah.
What if we get sucked in though? We start bringing children to them.
It's kind of like this breeding ground.
Is the QAnon the ones that drink the blood of children?
Or is no, that's the rest of the liberals. That's the Clintons and the Obamas. And
what is QAnon then? I don't even know what it is.
QAnon is just a group of people or Q is the person that disseminated the information. The QAnon, I think, is their group, what they call themselves, right? Some people are believing in QAnon and don't even know it's a QAnon thing. That's the weird part. Like, they don't even know they're believing QAnon conspiracies, but they're believing QAnon conspiracies because they're reading this stuff and they're believing it. And it's actually been put out by QAnon, which is an evangelical, like based in evangelical Christian traditional beliefs. I know. I'm with you though. I'm like, where is it coming from? Like, I just want to know like where this information is actually evolving from. And if you're believing it, shouldn't you check your sources? Like, okay, for example, perfect example. I heard that it's in the current bill in the administration to include women in the draft. So when you turn 18, you'll be required to, and we don't have a draft, like we haven't drafted for years, right? Since the 70s, but you'll be required to register with the military as a woman. And I was like, oh, what? You know, and then I looked it up and sure enough, that's true. That is in this current bill. And so at first I was like, what the hell? Like, this is bullshit, blah, blah. And then I was like, you know, I'm not sure it's bullshit. Like, if we as women want to have equal rights and equal opportunities, is it so wrong that we do that? That as a child always scared me. Like, I was so glad I was not a guy, that I didn't have to do that. So I'm not going to tell you that I'm not a little bit torn about this.
I think if we want equal rights and stuff, that has to happen.
Well,
right?
Exactly.
We can have some things and not things. Like, correct. I think it just has to be like equal all across the board.
That's
which is
that's what I
scary.
came to.
Although
I came to.
Go ahead.
We haven't in my lifetime drafted people. So we didn't even draft people when we went to war with Iraq. So it's not like we use that often. Or like Germany, they require boys, men of 18, I think it's 18 or 21, I can't remember. I think maybe it's 21, to go into the military for 2 years, like England does too. Like you are required to go spend 2 years. We don't require that. So I don't think it's much different than saying, hey, we require you to have a social security number. I mean, at some point we could just use social security to say, hey, we've got this amount of girls. We're sending them draft letters, right? Like, I'm not sure.
Like maybe they shouldn't even have to register. It should just be like, oh, okay, this is
exactly.
They should just draw
exactly.
it, you know, like,
But I will tell you, it gave me a moment of pause, and I checked it out. I like source checked it to see if this was rumor, this was true. And then I had a little heart palpitations about it. And then I was like, oh, well, okay, you know, if we want equal rights and all that, and we want women to be able to be in the military, like they've somewhat been shunned and not able to be in positions that they want to be in. Maybe this is how we get credibility in the military, is by, you know, doing this and being part of this. So I kind of took
it kind of freaks me out in the sense that because my Lucy's only 13, she could be a part of this. And hopefully for our case, if this is how they treat women, is like, so Janie, my friend, was military police.
Yeah.
And when they would go out in the tanks and they would travel to different cities and they would have to do searches of things, like whenever a man was doing a search on a woman in the city, there always had to be a woman soldier with them just to make sure there was nothing. And they would hide things in their hair and all seven. But they also said the men could go out from like 7 to 10 days, where women could only go out for 3. For like hygiene stuff and wise, like they needed to shower more often or something. So like, does that mean that's off the board now? Like everybody's going to be treated equally?
No, I think there's still some things women need, right? We still do have hygiene issues and care that needs to happen in that,
because we're not equal in some areas.
We're not. I mean, I think that unfortunately we are not. You know, you're not going to ask us to go lift giant things over our heads, you know, the way you would 10 men. Like
they might.
We can do it. Yeah. We can do it, but we're not going to be as successful. We just, and literally because I just researched this whole thing about DNA and puberty, we are not built the same. As much as we can do everything and we are able and bound and determined, right? Women power, I'm all about that. But the facts are, if we don't go through puberty, we do not have the same muscle strength in our upper bodies and muscle mass in our bodies that men do. That's just straight up facts. So anyways, yes. And I have 2 things to tell you before we get off and end today. One is, you talked about how your friend says COVID. I have a friend who also has a very thick Guatemalan accent, and she says puberty. And I absolutely love that. I'm like, oh my God, I love that. And she goes, wait, how do you say it? And I said puberty. And she goes, okay, she's trying to say it. I'm like, no, I like puberty better.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Puberty. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Really, it's awesome. And then I also wanted to tell you, I did want to close with some good news. Yes. You know, you started the show talking about indigenous and people of color going missing and everything. And this is not, and I think there's a lot of awareness right now about that. And I think that's definitely a problem. And I think part of it is we don't get the information out. And I'm not sure why, you know, news media coverage is not the same. However, I will tell you that in the process of them finding Gabby Petito, they did find a man that has been missing in the Tetons since August. Robert Lowry was found. So I do want to say that at least something good has come from this, that he was also found in this process, and give his family peace now, having some answers about him. Well, hey, Leslie, yes. It's been a good day. We kind of ranted and raved, and
we did.
You know, maybe you and I will get invited to the dark web. I don't know. Maybe I need to get a separate computer.
That's scary.
Okay, have you watched the Paris documentary? Yeah.
Paris? Paris
Hilton.
Oh,
okay, no. I watched the Paris Hilton documentary, and it's actually really good. I have never been a Paris fan. I will tell you, it's eye-opening. But the one thing is every time she gets a new boyfriend, she gets a new laptop. So she's got like a shit ton of laptops.
Why?
They're like old laptops that she doesn't get rid of because they know her password and they know certain things. So she just gets rid of the laptop. She doesn't like change her passwords or anything. She just gets a new laptop. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? So maybe we can get a
Why would they have all that information anyway? I don't know. Just weird.
Well, she probably, I don't know. I don't have a clue. I can't get into it because she changed. I don't know. But I thought that was interesting. That was a little blurb in there that on the documentary. And I went, oh, so maybe you and I need to get a separate laptop.
How many laptops did she have?
She had a lot sitting there. They were literally stacks and stacks in the video.
Does it have like the man's name on the top of it?
Well, it had a sticker. It had a sticker, like a sticky note on it, and I can't.
So it's kind of like a library. She just has them like in the bookcase with their name on the thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's kind of gross to have that many boyfriends. Well, I'm only imagining from her sex video that she's doing this with every boyfriend.
She actually doesn't have a lot of videos, and actually, you will come to be really sad for her. Because she is driven by money to make money. She wants to make her own money. She wants to make $1 billion. And it used to be $1 million. And then now it's up to $1 billion. And she doesn't trust men because of her life story. And she has a hard time trusting. And in fact, in the documentary, she's setting up these spy cams around her apartment. And they're like, what are you doing this for? And she goes, well, I have a new boyfriend and I want to see what's going on in my apartment when I'm not here. So she's basically, had these cameras set up.
Why is her boyfriend there unless they're living together? Why is he in there with her when she's not?
Because he traveled there. He traveled to see her. So he came in on the airplane or whatever. And then throughout the documentary, she ends up breaking up with him because he gets very jealous and he goes and gets drunk and all this. When she's like at a work thing, she's like, because she's a DJ. I didn't know that, but she's a DJ. And so she's going to DJ this big event. Like for her, this is like a huge event for her to be DJing. And he gets totally wasted and jealous and like, oh, you're not spending enough time with me. And she ends up like ripping his bracelets off and telling security to get rid of him. Like take him out. I don't want to.
Is she like a legit good? Sorry, my dog's sneezing. DJ, or is it kind of like a joke?
She's a legit good DJ, and she's a legit smart person. Her voice.
Well, remember the show that they were on with Simple Life or something?
Yes, that was all fake. That was all fake.
Of course, it had to have been. They were like doing laundry in the guy's bowl.
Yeah,
and all the clothes in the.
Yeah, it was totally fake. And I don't want to give it away, but there's a point in the show that you hear about something that has happened to her in her life. And her friends from this time are there and they're like, we knew that was totally all fake because we knew you knew how to mop a floor. We knew you knew how to do this stuff because you had to do it with us. And so she's like, yeah, it was totally fake. It was totally a persona. It was a ditzy girl, like rich girl persona that was just to get viewers and listeners. And yeah, she admits she has a fake voice and, she has a fake persona and brand is what she's calling it. And she's scared to get rid of it.
But I don't know if being a ditzy blonde is a good brand.
No, completely not. And I think she's regretting a little bit of that.
Yeah.
I think she would like to change that a little bit, but
all right. Well,
she's afraid.
I'm clean my house today, so I'm gonna.
Okay, good. I love it.
Documentary.
Well, Leslie, I want you to, while you're watching, stay curious.
Yes,
stay suspicious.
Suspicious.
I know. And stay open.
Stay open.
Woo!
All right,
girl.
Melissa, I'll see you Monday at 1.
All right. See you then.
Okay.
Bye.
All right.